The entertainment industry is changing, rapidly changing, as streaming services come and go and they fight and they increase prices and they add more advertisements. And that seems to be the model of the game. Can we watch movies anymore without being interrupted at every micro climax throughout the film? I don't know, but there are some solutions. And today we're going to talk about entertainment in 2024 and some of the solutions and some of the challenges and some of the opportunities that we will have. So stay tuned and I'll tell you what solutions I may or may not be doing or looking into doing at the end of the video here. But hopefully that will give you some ideas by which we can consider entertainment moving forward. So welcome back to Switch to Linux. Today we want to have a look at this streaming services, and all of these services are increasing their prices and they're adding more ads. Of course, Amazon has just said that they're keeping your price the same but adding in a bunch more ads, and then of course you can pay more to get rid of more of the ads, and Netflix is doing the same, and we're seeing declines in some of the industries. Yet at the same time this year we are seeing DVDs disappearing from more store shelves. And we want to talk a little bit about this industry and some of the pros and some of the cons of the things going on, because this is a weird market. And I think that what's happening is there's too many things going on, too many factors that will interfere with a good, free, and fair market, but at the same time, other opportunities and things that we need to take a differential approach, particularly when it comes to entertainment and media. And so today I want to bring up to mind some of the things going on in the industry and some of the things that happened recently and some things that can possibly be done about it. And so this is going to be a fascinating little take. So first part, let's talk about the decline of DVDs. So it was reported not too long ago. In fact, I remember we covered it on the news, but Best Buy had said that they were going to drop DVDs soon. Well, that soon is becoming a reality, as 2024 was the date of this. So from this group here, Kotaku, I think, Best Buy will soon stop selling DVDs, Blu-rays in the coming year. So they are keeping the video games. Of course, physical video games are a little more than download codes anyway. So you take your physical game, you put it in there, and it goes on the internet and downloads everything. So nothing there is changing, but they're going to be dropping DVDs and Blu-rays from the stores, although you can still get them from the websites if you want to. And they're doing this citing that DVDs have certainly been declining in sales, and this is true. And the sad reality is this is just the start of other directions many companies are taking. For example, Lyft is really leading some of the charges in trying to get us to suggest that cars are too expensive, so you shouldn't own the cars. Let us own all the cars. You can get a cheap ride from us anywhere, anytime, you know. And that's exactly what streaming services have started to do. And it kind of started with digital downloads. If you remember buying movies back around 15 or so years ago, you'd buy a DVD and then it had a redemption code. Now, you had to have an account, and there was like Flickster was one of them, and there were a few other ones. And you could download the app for your tablet, which were new technologies at the time. You bought the movie, you redeemed the code, and now you can actually take your tablet and watch the movie over the internet in addition to watching it with your DVD. Now, these services have effectively died out because people have turned to the streaming services instead. But what ended up happening is people looked to the streaming services and said, wow, for $8 a month or whatever it was back then, I could get all of these movies. But they didn't count on the fact that everybody would create a streaming service and then there'd be an internal behind the scenes fight over copyright. And I'm getting ahead of myself with the problem of streaming. But first, let's talk about the decline of the DVD. So, of course, Best Buy has said they're going to stop doing this. They're saying video games are safe for now. Now, here is a fascinating statement on their website that these guys are saying, yeah, they'll probably get rid of this soon. Although I deeply, deeply support this. With streaming media increasingly available, you might wonder why you'd want to own a physical copy of movies and TV shows on your Blu-ray discs and DVDs. Well, you might want to be entertained in parts of the world without internet access, like, most of America, because internet here sucks. Okay. Like when you're watching TV in a remote cabin getaway or keeping the kids entertained while they're in the car. Plus, serious fans of certain TV shows like to own their own libraries and have the collection of their own movies for showing marathon watching sessions or loaning to friends. And so Best Buy has that on their website, at least it did at the time the article was written, and I agree with that. Now, I think they should add another factor is, hey, some people do not want to dive into the streaming services, really. And so in that respect, we have to stop and consider, is it good for that they're stopping the end? Obviously, if they're not making sales in the store, it makes a business sense to not have a footprint of your store stocking inventory for something people generally aren't buying. But that is really where the streaming services have come in, dominated things, and by their convenience, ruined a lot of the internet. Now, the same organization almost 10 years ago recorded this: your CDs and DVDs won't last forever. One of the reasons many people prefer physical media over digital downloads, this is written right at that time that those online digital copies were available. They were like downloads only in the sense that you could download them proprietarily through the app. If you don't remember these, there was really that precursor to streaming, that pre-knee thing. It never really took off because streaming services was right around the corner. So one of the reasons many people prefer physical media over digital downloads is the supposed permanency of it all. Hard drives go bad, memory corrupted, doesn't matter. I've still got the disc. Remember, though, those discs will not last forever. So they did some experimentation looking at the various length of time CDs and DVDs would last. And indeed, there are some DVD technologies that last longer than others. If you remember the gold discs, I have a couple of those gold discs. Those are supposed to last a lot longer than your typical junk print-offs. But, and of course they say here, if you got a collection of old PS1, PS2, PC games lying around, they say, don't stick labels on them, don't draw on them, and try and handle them only through the hole, not around the edges of the disc. So these are important things. Now, this article, again, is from 10 years ago, but we were already talking about and bringing up this idea that DVDs won't last forever. Well, the problem is we're finding out that streaming services don't last forever either. But here is another article from 2019 looking at the decline in sales. The death of the DVD, why sales dropped more than 86% in 13 years. DVDs, since 2008, DVD sales have declined 86%. I'm trying to think if 2008 was their peak year. That might have been. Combination of the Great Recession, the rise in customers buying on-demand and digital copies of film, and the launch of streaming services is what caused the sales to plummet. Since 2011, platforms like Netflix, Hulu, HBO have seen sales balloon 1,231%. Well, when you go from absolute zero to the main way people consume media, obviously the percent is that high. But right now we're seeing, we'll get to in the next section, we're seeing a fight and a decline in the problem of what is going on here. So DVD sales have been on a decline for over a decade, but a slew of new streaming services and a shift in how consumers are watching movies and TV shows could be the final death knell for the technology. The same can be said for Blu-ray discs, of course. I did like that old meme a long time ago. I'm not sure if anybody of you guys remember that, but it said, can we all agree that to ignore anything that comes out after Blu-ray, I don't want to have to replace my collection again. Okay. But that's really the case. Of course, what came up after that is the streaming services. See, it's this measure of convenience. The DVDs got almost as good of a quality as a Laserdisc, but Laserdiscs were radically inconvenient. They were large. You could only fit an hour on the front of a extended play disc. You could only fit half hour on the side of a standard play disc. You'd have to flip your movies. It was very inconvenient. Just an average length movie usually would come with 2 full discs of it. So they were not super expensive. But if you actually remember them, their quality was way better than DVDs. But DVDs, small, compact, and for the technology we had, the televisions we had, the systems we had, they were absolutely crystal clear in replacing the VHS technology. Well, streaming services, if you have really good internet, can get super high quality, but if you don't have good internet, can get quality that's still comparable. It's still watchable. And so it's the convenient factor that oftentimes drives the market far before the quality or anything else. And in this case, the streaming services became convenient, but oftentimes, as I teach on this channel, convenience is really a path to more of destruction than anything else. So they're talking about it here. Here's the category. So here's like the peak sales. So it looks like the peak sales, it really hit this major peak around 2002, 2003. And I remember those days. And then it peaked out pretty good, and 2008 was the end of the peak, and then this is when the decline started happening as digital copies, streaming services, and things like that started to take on. Of course, I think the biggest decline here is the financial crash, and in the financial crash, people just didn't have the discretionary spending, and then by the time the financial crash had been stabilized, this is when streaming services came out, so people were already not used to getting the TV, the new movies, and now for less than the price of a DVD, you could buy a subscription service that had nearly every movie you'd ever want to watch on it. Well, then the problem is, of course, gets into the next section, which is some of the challenges and some of the problems with streaming services. So let's get into part 2 now, the problem with streaming. We'll start with the problem of streaming with a story that we reported on early December when a merger between PlayStation and Discovery was going to force, I think it was PlayStation and Time Warner actually, was going to force Discovery programs that people had purchased off of their devices. Now, Louis Rossmann said that the purchase agreement buried on page 22 indicated that this quote-unquote purchase was really more of a subscription. So this caused a big kerfuffle. As of December 31st, there were a whole lot of programs that people bought. Not, I bought a subscription to a service that had, but I bought these items. Now, in response to massive negative feedback, they did actually come out and say, oh, we're not going to do that. Now, this is PlayStation's announcement. They said, due to updated licensing arrangement, the Disney content removal planned for December 31st is no longer occurring. We appreciate your ongoing support and feedback. And then they provided a list of everything that was on this, and we're not going to go through all of it because it is a massive list of stuff. Just to give you an idea, this is how much stuff that people would simply lose having bought it. Now, what PlayStation says, we're no longer doing that, but when you dig in a little bit deeper, I guess let's go ahead and accept all cookies because this system deletes all cookies anyway once I close the browser. PlayStation will not delete the Discovery shows after all, but what they said is, now on the official sales page, we're not doing that, but officially, the firm now says due to an updated licensing agreement with Warner Bros., which owns the Discovery brand, consumers will now be able to access their previously purchased shows for at least the next 30 months. So you have at least an extra 2 years-ish, a little over 2 years to continue watching that stuff. I will tell you this, guys. If you have purchased those, get yourself a capture card, play them through your device, and record them. All right, which, best my understanding of the law, is not any form of violation because you're playing it back through a methodology that can simply record it, and it's kind of like recording a TV program because you've paid for it, you paid for the use. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so definitely consult a legal official before you take that as on advisement. But just understand that what they're trying to do here is they are trying to suggest that hey, for now you can still have it because we had a big backlash, and yeah, we'll probably get rid of that a little bit later. So there's that, you know. And that really is the biggest problem with streaming. So from CNBC back in May, Streaming services are removing tons of movies and shows. It's nothing personal. It's just strictly business. And this is what I talked about earlier with the behind the scenes. It's all just going back and forth and being like, backdoor deals. Oh, you can't have our license anymore. Okay, we'll do that. And so you still have the subscription service, and you bought the subscription service because that was your favorite program. But now your favorite program is no longer on the streaming service, or they've jacked up your prices. See, what used to happen is Netflix used to be cheaper than going to buy an average DVD. So for the less than the price of one movie you might buy a month, you have access to all these movies. Well, now with Amazon and Walmart having the $5 bins, a lot of the movies that are the old cherished classics you can get for under $5, and now the streaming services cost a lot more. So now you can buy 2 movies a month and have them for good for the less than the price you can get your streaming service. And this is what's happening, where streaming services are starting to decline in their popularity because of this. Now, it's not that people are stopping streaming altogether. They're just getting frustrated, jumping from thing to thing. Some of them are just utilizing revolving emails and signing up for free deals and then canceling it at the end. Some of them are picking up the deals that might come with buying a new cell phone plan. So there's a number of different things that people are doing to try and save money, because what we've done is we first turned to streaming when there was really only one option and one place to stream, and everybody wanted their movies on Netflix. And Netflix was way cheaper than having cable. So the cord cutters cut their cable to go and buy a cheaper plan here. But now all of these backdoor deals going on means the content's constantly shifting all over the place. And then each place is establishing their own streaming service. And now you have to pay 3 times more for cable for half the content. And then you never have any assurance where something is going to be. And so we end up with a situation where people are spending the same amount as they used to spend on cable. I said 3 times out of this hyperbolic. But the point being is that they're coming in and they're saying, hey, we're going to just shift all of our licensing behind the scenes, and it's ever revolving. And this causes a lot of frustration. Now, many people are just going to keep on dealing with whatever they're dealing with, but that's really is kind of the case. But they're talking about here about Netflix. We have Warner Bros. Discovery. We have Disney. Of course, Disney is starting to buy up about everybody. If there's ever a case for antitrust, that happens to be it. But the big problem with streaming services entirely is that they're getting us on this convenience, and then they're jacking up the prices, and then they're interfering every movie with advertisements perpetually. Or you have to start paying them more and more and more money. And of course, with many people now having to take on extra work or things, you might be paying more than the price of buying a movie on a disc than you are, for the amount of movies that you're watching, or the fact that your favorite content keeps disappearing and you get frustrated over that. I would, because I'm the type of guy, I like watching the same content over and over, just because I don't sit down and just watch movies. I can't stand to do that. I feel like I'm wasting time. I always got to be doing something, working on something, thinking about something, writing something. And so I like oftentimes watching movies I'm already familiar with, because it just gives me background noise to work. And there are times I'll watch something new as I'm doing some things. And so with streaming services being in a decline and now DVDs kind of losing out a little bit, there are still options. You can still buy DVDs from thrift stores, are great places, $1, $2. Walmart's a decent place for a lot of them. They got some decent movies in those $5 bins. Of course, you can still buy them from Amazon and things like that. You can still get DVDs in many cases. And if we as a market start shifting and say, we're cut off the streaming services, I'm sick of all this backdoor deals, and go back to buying DVDs, then the shows you want to watch were going to be easier to find on DVDs going forward. And this is going to lead us to our third act here, and that is some controversy surrounding DVDs and the law. So part 3, DVDs and the law. Now, I am not a lawyer, so depending on where you're at and what country you're at and what your interpretation of various laws could be, you're going to want to consult somebody or think deep about various ramifications as we get into the next part. Nothing I'm going to say here is any advice as to what you should or shouldn't do, but just understand that I am here in the United States. And in the United States, we have completely untested laws. And it seems as though the politicians are putting some things together that are simply paid for by the Hollywood industry. But at the same time, there are so many loopholes that anybody they want to turn the other cheek, they can just turn the other cheek. And anybody that they would like to happen to take down, they might be able to take down when it surrounds these things. But to my understanding right now, here's just a few fun things. Now, there are provisions of the copyright law that are like, you cannot copy. You cannot even make a backup of your hard drive if your hard drive contains a song. I mean, there are some people that suggest that. And there are other suggestions that say fair use allows a person to have any form of copyright background, a copyrighted item for your own personal use under many circumstances. And the reality is the laws are completely untested. In fact, since the DMCA originally passed, there's really only been 2 lawsuits I'm aware of. One of those dealt with the Kaleidoscope Project, and the other one was Real DVD. Let me talk briefly about those 2 principles. So in the Kaleidoscope, I believe the Kaleidoscope had a service that for $30, like a device, and for $30 a month or something, I forget exactly what it was, you could take the DVDs you had. I think this was that mail-in service, I remember. You could take the DVDs, you could encrypt them onto their drive, which put them as a digital copy, and you could take that drive to any Kaleidoscope player. And it was extraordinarily proprietary. It was actually harder to break that encryption than it was to break a DVD. And they were selling this, and so a person couldn't freely and easily distribute them because these were tied to some system that you had. But the Hollywood industry sued them anyway, saying, well, this doesn't prevent somebody from going and renting a DVD and putting it in their system. Which is a bunch of nonsense, because we used to rent VHSs all the time and make a copy of them for our own personal use, and that wasn't a violation of the law. And so it raises these questions. The other one was a Real DVD, which I think was a super expensive system. That did some, I forget all the details of that. Those 2 lawsuits were around 2008, and they both tended to favor themselves inside of the Hollywood production side of things. But both of those were commercial applications, and the commercial application seems to be what the copyright law is most familiar with. So how do you not violate it? Copyright laws protect the rights of people who create or own creative works such as books, articles, movies, photographs. It might seem as though avoiding copyright infringement should be as simple as not taking someone else's work and claiming it as your own, but copyright laws offer broad protections to copyright holders. Business owners unfamiliar with copyright laws may inadvertently violate another person's copyright, and this violation can carry stiff penalties. This is from Legal Beagle. I wonder if this is the animal pet friend of Legal Eagle. I don't know. And so what they're doing here is, using other people's works, contacting copyright holders, and down under fair use. There's a fair use exception to copyright laws that allows people to use limited excerpts for scholarly, nonprofit, or educational purposes. For example, you could excerpt a book as part of a book review or show part of a movie for a college class. There's no legally codified list of specific fair uses and no specific limit on the size of the excerpts. So determining whether something constitutes fair use can be challenging. If you're not sure, you should contact the copyright holder. See, this is weird because there is actually an entire arm of the Copyright Office that seeks nothing but to compile legal cases to basically say, hey, these are some court precedents. So the copyright law itself is so open to interpretation that they're just citing case laws. The Copyright Office itself is just citing case laws to see how judges have interpreted it. That seems to me that the law needs rewritten. There's, of course, strict penalties for violating it. As far as DVD copyright laws, United States copyright law is designed to protect the rights of people who create artistic work and those who purchase the right to use the works. DVD copyrights may be registered through the U.S. Copyright Office, but a DVD does not have to be registered for copyright. Copyright protections immediately flows to an item the moment it's created in a tangible form, and a DVD is a tangible form. Now, this is where things get a little bit dicey. The fair use doctrine allows individuals to use DVDs and other copyrighted items so long as it does not cause economic harm to the copyright holder. You have the right to purchase, view, show DVDs to others. Educational use, such as showing a DVD to a classroom of students, is also typically permissible use. However, using it as a series of seminars or a money-making educational venture may not be permissible. They talk about copying. Copyright laws allow DVDs to be copied for archival reasons. However, only one person, i.e. the owner of the physical media, should have access to the copy. For example, you may make a single copy of a DVD movie if you are not concerned about the DVD being scratched or stolen. If you are concerned about being scratched or stolen. You may not, however, make copies of the DVD to give or sell, as this can constitute economic harm. I will expand on this. You are not permitted to go to the library, check out a DVD, make a copy, and send it back. You're not permitted to borrow a DVD from a friend, make a copy, and give it back, because those impact the economic harm. But as far as an individual buying a copy, keeping the physical copy, and putting it in a digital form, many people will say, yes, that's permissible, and many people will say, no, it is not. And it's completely untested. The only two cases we have are those Kaleidoscope and the Real DVD cases, which were both commercial solutions to things, not a private individual doing a private thing for private reasons. So they do talk about downloads, which is mostly torrents and things, which obviously is also problematic. And then they have permissions for use. Some DVD contain copyright warnings at the beginning, and they say you have to do what that says, which may or may not be true. But again, everything here is nebulous. This article here from MacX DVD. So MacX DVD is a software application. Just be aware. Beware, it is illegal to rip copy-protected DVDs for any commercial use. Now, note that keyword again, any commercial use. That really boils down to the question of it. Now, where this hinges, it's very clear if you have a music CD, you can copy that, because a music CD does not have any form of encryption, but a DVD does have a form of encryption, and that's what the hinge point is. Is it a violation to go around that for a fair use of utilizing what you purchased for your own private good? Or is it just absolute, does the DMCA breaking the encryption on this physical disc that I have purchased and is in my possession, which one trumps which? And that really is the thing that needs clarified by our legal system. Not the judges. I think it needs clarified on the congressional level with a better law. But what they do here is they give us a lot of information. Let me close that table of contents there. Ripping a DVD is common practice. There's always someone who'd like to rip a DVD to a hard drive to build their movies in a digital DVD to MP4, so play their discs outside the disc tray, especially if they're on a trip. But the legality of it is still obscure, leaving many questions thoroughly unanswered. All right, so it is possible to do them for only personal use? Is it illicit to copy a rented DVD for personal use? Things like this. So as far as all of these are concerned, DVD copyright laws are enforced to protect the rights of people who create the original work. United States copyright makes it clear violating the law when using any technology to break DVD copyright protections applies to the commercial DVD ripping of Title I of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. So it's unlawful to rip a DVD for the purpose of commercial use without consent of the copyright owner. So if you're going to rip it, encode it, rip a DVD and code with DRM, such a DVD is certainly unlawful. Again, note that for commercial use application. Now, however, fair use doctrine allows for the use of a copyrighted material without acquiring permission from the original copyright holder. You are entitled to the privilege to create a copy or rip a DVD or other media you legally purchased for use as long as they are not redistributed publicly. So it is legal in this case, they say, to rip a DVD movies in the case of any DVD damage or loss or traveling overseas or for other purposes. And so this is really that question. Is this completely untested in United States law? Now, other places have a lot of different things. Is it lawful in the United States? United Kingdom, This was interesting because they completely legitimized it in 2014, but then the exemption was overturned in 2015. So I guess UK is somewhat nebulous. Spain, Netherlands, Australia, New Zealand, Norway, citizens are allowed to make private copies of their legally bought DVDs for personal use, but the RIP files are not allowed for distribution. Is it rightful to copy or rip DVDs in Canada? Although the Copyright Act of Canada generally says it's legal to make a backup copy of any copyrighted work, including DVD, but this is the real licensing condition of not cracking technology. So basically the same as the United States. Again, it's completely untested. And so we don't know all of the various options. I really think that we need clarification on all the laws. While in Japan and China, ripping DVDs and CDs is huge, and you will have no problems at all. So, okay. So there is bite by bite for most of the different things. The rest of this down here is basically like, selling their product that this company owns. So we're not going to bother with that part down there. But the point being is that there are two competing and conflicting laws. The Digital Millennium Copyright Act is going to forbid you from doing anything to break encryption, and a DVD is encrypted. So that would be a violation. But the Fair Use Doctrine allows you to use what you have purchased for your own personal, non-commercial means. And so we have two conflicting laws, and so we don't know what the solution is. And in the case of these here, it's really open to debate. So my general take on this is, under no circumstance am I going to just give anybody any copy of any file I may or may not have, okay, that originated from a DVD. I am not going to borrow somebody's DVD, make a copy, unless I am very explicitly intending to purchase that and looking for the opportunity to do so. And even that case, I very well will probably delete the file if I had gotten a hand of a copy and didn't get a chance to purchase the movie yet. Okay, because I want to be in full compliance with the law as best as I understand it. But I am not going to do anything which is going to allow any copies of anything I may or may not have to be available to anybody. We're not going to make them available. And this really is the overarching principle that I want to say is we need to do it legally and lawfully. We can't be pooling all of our movies between all of our friends and producing one server for everybody. I think that's a violation of the law. We can't be renting things from the library or a rental store, if such a thing still exists, making a copy and sending it back, because that hurts the commercial viability. But if I'm willing to spend my money and physically keep a physical copy of a disc, I'm going to rest myself on that as being mostly legal or legal until we have some form of clarification under the case that I am doing things explicitly for my own personal use, and the fact that, hey, I'm in a small space and I cannot carry with me 24/7 a giant stack of DVDs for movies that I have legitimately bought and can show you the copy of for everything that I may or may not have. All right, so that really is the idea here. So if this is interesting and you think that you might like to say, okay, I can look at the possibility of this, or hey, I'm in China, Japan, Norway, whatever else that's perfectly under every circumstance legal, then I'm going to share with you two solutions in our last part. Part 4, what are the solutions that we have? Well, if you are in a case where you can legally have copies of your DVDs, or if you believe that your use is following the law, then we do have a few solutions and options that you have. Now, one of these is an internet option solution, which is going to set up a private streaming server for you. The other one is entirely local. If you're in a place that is possibly a little bit more nebulous, I would definitely steer more towards the local solutions than the internet-based solutions, just in case somebody hacks the system, causes a backdoor, causes a leak. It's a lot easier to protect yourself from any potential claims of redistribution if nothing is available on the internet anyway. But nevertheless, we will look at the internet-based options first. So I did a guide tutorial on Jellyfin. Jellyfin is a very competent media server which you can create and host. You have apps for all the different devices, computers and phones and tablets that you can put all of your files on one internet centralized server. You can control user accounts, and then your family, those who have legal, lawful access to your files, can get on and see those files, whether they be music, which is always legal, assuming that you have a copy of the disc, or movies, if you're in a place where you can legally extract such movies, then you can go ahead and create the server. And I have the whole guide over here on the website. This is at switchtolinux.com, and then head on over to the tutorials section and find our Jellyfin guide. So Jellyfin itself is a FOSS solution. You can actually very easily create this on a DigitalOcean or a Linode. That's what my tutorial is going to do. You have movies, shows, music, live TV, DVR. You can do books, you can do photos, you can do sync play, sharing a movie night remotely with friends, things like that. We have media plugins for the dreaded K-word, Roku, Amazon, Apple, Android, desktop, web. There's more. So there is a lot of functions here that you have inside of this platform. So you can go ahead and click down here and you can try out a demo. Of course, I have really slow internet where I'm at right now, so I don't think that's going to work super well. But you can get here. Oh, it might actually work. Okay, so here it's just asking us to sign in. So login, users, demo with an empty password. All right, let's go ahead and do that with an empty password. Let's go ahead and do that, see what we get. So here you go. Here's movies, here's music, here's TV shows, here's audiobooks. So presumably if they have movies in here, everything should be public domain, but we'll see. There you go. The Living Dead, 1968. Something from Another Country, Jungle Book 40. Yeah, so everything here pretty much looks public domain-ish. I'm wondering if they got Steamboat Willie on here yet. Oh, there's a suggestion for you guys. All right. Now, that's really your internet option, which works out well. Now, I'm fighting with internet all the time anyway. I do not have the bandwidth to worry about streaming stuff, so my solution is more local. So I use Open Media Vault personally for my music and some video shares and things. This allows me to have one connected device on my network, and then everything on the network, be it a phone or be it a computer, can access that library and allow the personal viewing on a personal device. And so with Open Media Vault, this guy here, what is that warning down there at the bottom? Attention, currently only for Intrepid users, starting with this package version. All helper scripts included will allow you to upgrade. Okay, so this is just an upgrade from OMV 6 on Debian 11 to OMV 7 Debian 12. We're not worried about that right now. That's just a warning about the latest upgrading to the latest version instead of just installing it. So this here is something I have a few different tutorials. My most recent one is how to install this on a Raspberry Pi. So if you're like, well, I don't have a spare computer running around, you can probably get a Raspberry Pi. They're cheap. And I've been running mine here in van life for, since I've been here. Actually, I think I set this up before I entered van life. So I think I've been running this now for 4 years. And all of my data drive is encrypted. So if somebody were to bust in here and steal the thing, they couldn't access anything on there because everything is all encrypted. And this allows me to power the device on, decrypt the encrypted drive, and then this will distribute any of my files to anything here. So you can have a look at this video here. This is a good logical next step to go if you're looking at making a change in 2024, and I'm going to encourage you to do that. Go ahead and look at the possibility of saying, okay, let me look at the DVDs. Let me look at the cost of buying my favorite movies or TV shows. Definitely check your thrift stores, check Amazon, check Walmart. Best Buy might be putting on sales to get rid of the physical media in the stores. Go ahead and check that before they phase them out entirely. That might very well be the best solution, the best option that you have. But what you will find is that you will really enjoy media entertainment again when it's back under your terms. You're not having to shell out money every single month. You'll only be shelling out money if you need to buy a new DVD. You might have a list of all the movies on your phone that you're looking for. So I have a bunch of movies that I really like, the old movies. I have a giant list. Anytime I see a thrift store, I go in there, I review that list. I'm going to check the movie list. I have picked up so many of my old favorite movies. I own physical copies of the physical DVDs so I can physically watch those. when I want to. And it's so much better going back and being less dependent on these streaming services that are constantly trading up their data back and forth and are just doing all sorts of weird stuff on the back end with selling you more ads, marketing more to you, jacking up your prices, all these types of things. You are not free if you're dependent on these companies. So I encourage you in 2024, look for other solutions for media entertainment, which is still perfectly viable for the movie industry. I'll tell you this, the movie industry does make money when you watch their films on Netflix, but they make more money upfront on a cash purchase when you pick up the copy of their DVD from the store. And I think it's better. I think it's better for them in the long run if they're still selling the DVDs. And if more and more people stop buying them because they've turned to streaming services, then we're going to have a way to consume media completely disappear from the market. And that is definitely something we do not want to do. So we're going to go ahead and leave this video here. I'm going to suggest, why don't you have a look at either that Open Media Vault video or the Jellyfin video from here, see what it might take to set that server up on your end, and start taking control of your media entertainment in 2024. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.